Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar. Today, we are presenting webinar on Engineering in the 21st Century, People-Concentric Conflict Avoidance, organized by Applied Science and Humanities Department of Parul Polytechnic Institute, Parul University. The main agenda of this webinar is to define the conflict relating to different people-concentric collaboration. I, Vaishali Nathwani, would like to introduce today's guest speaker, a behavioral science expert for management and business development and leadership author, Jenny Landgren from Sweden. She works with leaders, coaches, and counsel CEOs, managers, and employees, making sure everything understands their power of influence in any situation. Jenny believes that life and leadership are not about perfection, they are a part of self discovery. She admires leaders who are willing to evaluate without bias and change their mind in an instant. Jenny knows when we don't choose ourselves first, we can't give as much to others, and love doesn't always look at all lovable. Sometimes loving people means letting them go. Jenny connects with others at a deep level and teaches tools for better communication. She has written a book titled Choosing Unity Starts with Us, which is available on Amazon also. Her famous mantra is a person's vulnerability is a gift. Let's treat it as such. It's a privilege to welcome you, ma'am, and you can start with the session.
Vaishali, thank you so much for that generous introduction. What a blessing for me to be here with all of you, calling from Sweden. The internet has found a way of connecting us, the way that we really already are connected, right? This pandemic is really making us aware that this is a human experience and that we are all connected in all of this. I'm so grateful and happy to be here with all of you talking about conflict. Raise your hand if you love a good conflict. I am pretty sure that you, as well as me, feel that conflicts make us a bit unease. It's something that we hope not to encounter. And also, we know that it is a normal part of the teamwork. It's a normal part of the workforce, of our workplace. And it's something that we get to learn and understand and really harness the benefits of. So, as we all at some point often hope to avoid conflict, when we understand the human nature and the human being, we are able to address it and harness the wealth that it really brings to us. And at the end of this webinar, I'm going to give you some very concrete examples of how you can approach yourself and the other person in a conflict to benefit from it. So I will be presenting my presentation with you. And to be honest, I really prefer just showing up and having a conversation because that's what authenticity is all about. But I know it's also very helpful to have the words and have something to keep your eye on while I'm talking. So let's share. Can I please have some response if this is this working for you? Are you seeing my presentation?
Yes, madam, it is visible.
Thank you so much. Okay, so let's do this. Let's dig into conflict. We are going to look at defining what a conflict is, because there are different reasons for why we end up in coalition, in conflict, why we clash. Let's look at how we can relate to those differences and really dig into psychology of how we all really are different and what's so precious and unique about that. let's also look at what people-centric collaboration looks like. The choices that we have to enter that, to open up to the possibilities of overcoming conflict and make the best out of every situation. So there are numerous types of conflicts. We will be focusing on the ones that are very particular to the organization, and as teammates and as as engineers. I used to teach engineers at university, so I know that you're very goal driven, and you really want to get the best product out there. I understand that. So let's look at the different types of conflicts that can occur in the workplace. There's the pseudo conflict, there's the task conflict, the relationship conflict, and the value conflict. The pseudo conflict. No, let's look at the the word conflict at first. I really wanted to get that in there. Like, as a verb, yes, it's a collision. There's differences in some way that are colliding. There's a fight often. There's a battle or a struggle. But I just want to ask you, and I will get back to it. Is this really how we need to look at it? What does it do to us when we approach conflict as a battle, as something that we have to win, something that we, have to get on top of? I'm just going to problemize that a little bit at the end. But yes, this is how we define it. So a pseudo conflict is really something it didn't really have to be. There is a difference of understanding of words. Like, there's a lack of information. There's something in the communication that's off, so that we're just not understanding one another. These are the kind of conflicts that we feel like, oh, we could really have done without that. It's a disagreement about something that we really are agreeing about, but we're not communicating properly. So we are not understanding one another. Language difficulties and misunderstandings. So those occur all of the time. And a tip for you, when you feel like, this conversation is really, this is bugging me, like there could be a conflict here. Ask the other person to define the words, because this is language many times. What does that mean to you? Okay, so this is important to you. Why? Ask a person to define what they mean with that specific word, so that you can really understand them from their point of view. Because pseudo conflicts, it's often about language. So one of the most common conflicts in the workplace is a task conflict, that we have. We're arguing about facts. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. We have different goals. We want to we want to steer this project in different directions. We have different opinions on the appropriate approach to an issue or a task. And a task conflict, it may seem very obvious and easy, but it seldom is, because behind this is something else. And this is where we get to become very curious. And I'm going to talk a lot about curiosity in this webinar. Because behind, for example, if we have different opinions about how to best plan a project, behind our conflict, there could be a rivalry in roles, for example. We want to have different social roles in this group. It may not even be about the task, behind that there can be the fact that I want to be the leader and you want to lead, because we're both inspired by the power of influence. So, okay, so that can be behind that. Or we have different interests. Like you want to make money, like you want this product to sell big, and I just want this product to be valuable. So we have different, valuable to the buyer. So we have different interests, or there are different needs. Like I want to be autonomous. That means I want to be recognized as my own being, separate from you, that I am able to have my own opinions and have my own aspirations and ideas. And what you are striving for is belonging, connectedness, for all of us to work together. And there are so many reasons why we collide. And it's so important for us to become very curious as to what is behind this conflict. What is the nature of this conflict? Yes, it's the task at hand, but what is really behind it? We also talk about relationship conflicts. So we're all beautifully unique. Like we have different personalities and styles and expressions. And we're very quick to have assumptions of one another. Like when we meet for the first time, we really want to have a finished set of ideas of who that person is, how are they going to influence me? What is this group really like? So we're very quick to judge and have opinions. And even when we're aware, like I am quick to judge. It's human. So we get to become very curious as to what are the different personalities in this group. And also with different personalities and with different interpersonal communication that we will also be talking about very soon, we get to become very curious as to what is this person really meaning? What are they really needing? What are they really trying to communicate? Because we're so quick to have assumptions about another person's intentions, right? What they intended, what did they really mean with that? There's a relationship level of every communication. So at the deepest level, we also have our values. We have different ideas of politics. And boy, politics can be a really big issue and a really big area of conflict in the workplace. The reason behind it is because our values are very connected to our emotions. And our emotions really are the private part of us. It's part of our motivation. It's part of what drives us. So when we get into the values, those kind of conflicts can really be the most difficult ones to work out. They really can. So there's difference of religion, of ethics, of culture and norms, of assumptions that, of course, you do it this way. There's a certain way of doing things. And we're all grown up in families that have a certain approach, a certain way of looking at the world, and a certain set of norms of how things are to be done. And this is so obvious to us that we're not aware all of the time. We don't know all of the norms that we're, playing along with, all of the rules, the unspoken rules that we're living our life by. That's just part of who we are. So these kind of conflicts takes a lot of reflection to get down to, and a lot of acceptance that we will be speaking more of shortly. So, how do we relate to the fact that we are so different? That our uniqueness is so vast. I think it's a miracle that we understand each other at all. It's like you who are listening, you have an entire universe within yourself. And when you share that, you want to share your opinions and your thoughts and your voice with the world and with your team. That is, maybe 50%. Now, 40%. I mean, what number would you put on it? Of all of the understanding and emotion and awareness and drive that you have, are you actually able to communicate? But it doesn't even end there. Someone has to pick that up and make sense of that and understand that and interpret it into their own internal communication and then respond to it. You know, it's no wonder that we collide. It's a wonder that we are able to communicate at all at times, because that's how beautifully unique we all are, and that's how much we carry within ourselves. So, as I mentioned, there is an interpersonal communication. Many times we talk about the words that we're sharing with one another. We're talking about the communication that's going on in between us. Yes, all of that begins with the intrapersonal communication, the communication that is going on within ourselves. There's also a perspective, our unique way of looking at the world. And in the team, we have a position, we have a responsibility, something that we are looking out for. So let's dig into that. Relating to different. There's so many words to describe the communication that goes on within ourselves, and I am pretty sure that you recognize them. There's self-awareness, self-image, self-confidence, self-worth, self-reflection. And when we are in a conflict, all of these things will determine how we communicate with the other person. So our self-awareness is about how well we know ourselves. How well have we discovered ourselves? And it's so much easier to know ourselves when we're curious and compassionate. And I'm going to talk more about that in just a little bit. There's also the self-image. This is a story that we're telling about who we are. We're telling it to ourselves. I'm a person who exercises. I'm a person who speaks up. Or I'm a person who's very shy. I'm a person who keeps in the background. And all of those stories that we're telling ourselves, they're really determining our beliefs in who I am and what I am capable of. Sometimes we have limiting beliefs, and that leads us into self-confidence. Self-confidence is about performance. It's about my belief in my ability to perform in a certain area. For example, stepping into here and meeting all of you today, do I have the confidence that I know enough? Do I believe in my ability? That's my self-confidence. This is very often confused with my sense of self-worth. My sense of self-worth is about how I relate to victory or failure. If I step on this screen today and share with all of you, do I believe that if I mess up, if I completely mess up this presentation, that I will be less worth, that I will be less worthy as a person? If my sense of self-worth is low, this will be my relationship to my performance. If I mess up, I am less worthy. And that's going to make me very fearful. And very fearful in a conflict, because I'm going to want to be right all of the freaking time. Because I'm so terrified of being wrong. What is that going to do to my self-worth? On the other hand, if I have a high sense of self-worth, if I know that I am worthy of respect, worthy of a good life, that means that I understand that it's absolute. There's nothing I can do to change it. And if I fail, That's going to be an awesome learning experience. Lucky me, I got to learn something about myself. So this really determines how open we are to listen, to interact in a conflict, if we are fearful of failure or not. There's also that self-reflection part, and this has to do with vulnerability. How open am I to look at myself and discover myself meeting you, because we are so different? And also, I reflect myself in meeting you, because when I get to meet you, I understand where I stand. Because I recognize that you have an opinion, I understand that so do I. And if you are here, okay, so I recognize that you're here, that means I'm here. So cool. I get to know myself by getting to know you. That's the self-reflection part. So there's so much more within ourselves that determine how we approach a conflict. If we're scared of it, if we're trying to avoid it, or if we are seeing the opportunity of it. There's the value system, and we just spoke about that. Our values leads to an approach, an attitude. That's our behavior. It's how we act in a certain situation. We all have needs. We talked about that, about task conflicts, that like behind all of that, there's a need. There's something that we're longing for. Many times it's to feel safe. We want to experience belonging. And we all want to influence our situation, but there are a various of different needs that are determining our behavior. And the more we become aware of our needs, the more we can approach them mindfully. There's our convictions. Like there are things that we believe in that we're not even questioning that. That's such a basic part of our being. It's how we were brought up. It's how we look at it in our culture. That's very cool. Like we have those convictions. Sometimes they serve us and sometimes they don't. We have our emotions. Our emotions are such a vital part of our decision making. It's what makes us feel like, yes, this is probably the good thing. Like if we didn't have emotions, we would be looking at options in like eternally, without having that sense gut feeling like, yeah, this is what I want to go with. Our emotions are so important. They also cause us a bit of distress sometimes, because in conflicts we feel like we don't really know them. They just jump all over us, and they even get bodily expressions, like we can get our heart can start beating really fast in a conflict, or we can gasp for air, or we can get really angry and have tension in all of our muscles, for example. So that's also playing its part. The humor side of this is really cool if you look into it. Have you been in a very tense situation and someone just decided to make a joke to relieve the tension? Because that's also such a vital part of us, that we get to relax and enjoy ourselves and regulate our emotions through humor. So I'm just taking you through all of this to make you aware of how beautifully unique we are, because this is different for every individual. And I'm telling you who are listening, you are beautifully unique. And what you are bringing to your workplace with all of these different values and needs and longings and emotions makes for that juicy culture that we all want to work with. So good for you. There's also the personality, and I'm going to be mindful of the time. Awesome. We have a unique personality. And this is so exciting. I just want to stop right here, but we can't. But we have different types of consciousness. Like some of us are very spontaneous. When we're in a group and we have a project that we want to get into, we just want to get going. We just want to start right away. And some of us are very careful, like, hold on, let's see what we did in the past. Let's look at this from different angles. So there's there's potential for a conflict. And what we get to realize is that all of these are valuable. Yes, it's good to be flexible at times. And yes, it's good to be able to pause and consider and take into evaluation. There's also introversion and extroversion. I know in Sweden about 30% of our population is introverted. So introversion means that when I get information for the first time, I'm going to internalize that. I'm going to close myself down for a little bit and be in my inner world and just reflect on it, because my inner world is my home. This is where I feel the most comfortable. It means that I take a while before I speak. It means that I really hate conflict. Like that colliding is so scary, because in a conflict at the moment, that means that I have to speak right away. I have to act right away. And that goes against my nature, because an introvert just wants to reflect and be mindful of that by themselves, and then respond when they are ready. So if you're fearful towards conflict in that way, that's totally okay. And you don't have to respond right away. You can really approach it at a time that is appropriate to you. You can also you can tell people, hey, I'm an introvert, give me some time to process. That's totally fine. I've done that. It worked really well, communicating it to other people. The extroverted person can be a bit energized in this situation. And we need the extroversion, because like the extroverted people will come up with ideas in the second. They will be in the moment. They will be caring for the energy that is right there. And we really have a lot to learn from one another. Important is that we are respectful of each other's needs and each other's personalities. So another part of our personalities that we're like agreeable or hostile. It sounds really negative, but also here, both of these are just right. There's benefits in both camps. So when we're agreeable, it means that we have a person that's just like inviting people in. We're just pulling them in. And you can almost notice like how a person is looking at other people. Are they inviting them into conversation? Or do they have their fence a bit further out from their house? Like, are they keeping people a bit on a distance? And that's also fine. You know, what we get to become mindful of is that many times we step as close to other people as we ourselves are comfortable with inviting them in. So we can become mindful, well, how far do I keep my fence from my house? And understand that, other people may approach that differently. Some want to invite you in, and some need a bit more time to get to know them. And that's totally fine. We are to respect one another. There's also neuroticism, like some of us are a bit more sensitive in life. When things happen, when things go, when there's difficulties, some of us are more deeply affected, and some of us are more stable. We're able to, ground ourselves in that and look at the opportunities at hand. So we're so unique. We're all at some point, you know, of 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 this line. And what we also get to remember is that it's not an on and off button. You're not all introverted. You're not all extroverted. You're not all hostile. You're not all agreeable. Like, from where we find ourselves on the scale, there's also, like, for me as an introvert, I call myself an introvert because it helps people understand sort of what I need in a meeting, in a collaboration. I also have extroverted parts of myself that I get to discover and become very curious about. And I'm telling you, the extroverted people in my life have taught me so much. And we've had conflicts, and I appreciate them for teaching me about extroversion. So cool. We also have our different perspectives. That's also such a part of how we relate to what is different. You who are listening have lived a unique life. You've had a unique family, friendships, workplaces, experiences, cultures, even cultures within towns that has defined your way of looking at the world, of looking at other people, that has given you a sense of what is right and wrong, of what is, beneficial or harmful, what feels good, what does not feel good. And we get to honor ourselves. We get to honor our own journey. Just be mindful that our lens, and I put the glasses in here because we have, specific lenses that we look at the world through, and that, gives it a certain shade to us. We get to be mindful and remember that other people are wearing different kinds of glasses. They've had different life experience. They've had different relationships that define their perspective. Also, my friends, sometimes we experience trauma. We experience things that hurt us, things that we get to heal from, things that damage our self-image, our relationship to self. And I'm bringing it up because in conflict, this really also determines how we relate to other people, and especially how we relate to vulnerability. If you're meeting a person who always has to be right, always has to get their opinion across, not able to listen, I'm telling you, instead of looking at that person as someone you have to win over, look at it as someone that gets to heal, a person who is not complete, a person who might be lost at some point. And maybe from your approach in this conflict, you can be someone who does not, add to that wound, a person who actually is a step of that person healing and becoming closer to themselves. And I'm telling you, friends, that is leadership. That is leadership, stepping beyond the situation, placing yourself above the situation, your reaction, and deciding, no, I'm going to be curious as to what this person needs. That's who I am going to be in this conflict. And I understand that there is a wound right here that gets to heal. And I will be very mindful of that in the way I speak and talk. So also in our communication, some of us are task oriented and some of us are process oriented. And this is something that really creates a lot of conflicts in the workplace, that some of us are very focused on the goal. This is what we're setting out to do. Let's get to it. And some of us are very interested in the process, in the relationships, in the communication, how we relate to one another. The task is what, the process is how we get there. And every business is a people business. Everything is about how we relate to one another. This is why this webinar is super important, and I'm so glad that you are here. So if you're task-oriented, that's wonderful because we're all needed in this process. A task-oriented person, a task-oriented role will clarify and evaluate the goals, We'll direct the group, keep the focus to where we're heading at, organize what has to be done, express opinions, strive for agreement, summarize, evaluate, take up solutions, come up with new ideas. I think you're getting the point. Like this is all about, let's keep our focus to what we're going. So important. And some of us are process oriented. We have a role of keeping the group together. And we really need the goal oriented people because we can't, in Sweden, we have a term that's called fika. It's when you put out like cinnamon buns and coffee and different cakes and you just chatter. Like, we can't really do that all of the time. It's also important that we maintain our relationships, that we care for one another, that we feel safe within the group so that our brains are able to focus on the goals. This is why we're both so needed. So a process-oriented person will be very involved with like, how can we best collaborate? How can we settle, like when there's a difference of opinion, how can we compromise between them? How can we confirm one another, strengthen one another, lift one another and support? So sometimes there's a conflict in the group between those two roles. And my message to you is to become aware of how important both are. So important. If we'd all be process oriented, we would be fika, we'd be having coffee all of the time. And if we're all goal oriented, then people would be really uncomfortable. People would not feel a sense of belonging, a sense of security and happiness entering that collaboration. So please acknowledge one another for the part that you are playing in your specific team. So entering into centric collaboration. This is the future, guys. This is what we have ahead of us, and especially after this pandemic, that we are more aware of the importance of connecting with ourselves, of building a relationship towards ourselves and others, how we are needing one another. And also because the world is moving in such a quick pace. The global change that is going on, the diversity that's just exploding, all of this is change. And it's change in a acceleration that is accelerating. Like, it's moving so fast, the change. So our need to connect with ourselves and know ourselves and be still and secure and have confidence in ourselves is that much more important today. This is why this is the future. This is why these things that I will read to you are so important to take into consideration. Curiosity, acceptance, compassion, empathy, authenticity, and yes, forgiveness. It's interesting to think that the word group really comes from, it's an Italian root of a knot. And it's so, it's really speaking to us because it's, things can really be easily get really entangled in a group. It can get really complicated. A knot is also something that holds things together, that stabilizes. It's something that we get to care for. Curiosity in this situation is, I know I've been repeating that word for you over and over and over again. And I even asked you entering this webinar, please bring your curious mind. Because if we choose to look at conflict as a problem, erase that. If we choose to look at conflict as a fight, as something that we're entering and we have to maintain our self-esteem and win this to feel good about ourselves, what's that going to do to us? That's going to have us not listen, not collaborate, not being responsible as a team member. On the other hand, if we decide, and back to the way that we define conflict, in the beginning, if we decide to look at conflict as, a problem, like what do you do when you face a problem? You're like, I'm getting really curious here. I wonder how I can approach this. What are my options? What are my choices? How can I be responsible? How can I respond to this? What can I do? And what does this mean? If we look at it not as quarrel, but something that we get to solve, we can look at this other person and become very interested. Basic line in communication, we can listen to a person to want to understand them or to respond and position ourselves. One is going to lead to collaboration and good, effective work. Guess which one? When we become curious, our minds open and we want to understand. So here's an exercise for you. Next time you're in a conflict, ask curious questions. Not to defend yourself, but to support, listen, support the other person as they deepen their reflection. What a gift you are able to give your teammate to support them as they deepen the reflection in the conflict that you're having. Tell me more. This seemed to be very important to you. Please explain further your opinion. How can I support you? Okay, this is very important to you. That acknowledgement. Please help me understand. What do you believe in? Why is this so important to you? I want to know. That curious, open mind. Go have coffee with the person. Open up to get to know one another. It's such an opportunity when you get that feeling like this person, like we're getting into collidence here. Open up to it. Who are you? So interesting. To be able to open up to another person, we first get to accept ourselves. And this is the theme through all of this. What we first give ourselves in relationship to ourselves, we are able to give in relationship to others. When I accept myself, I'm less worried about being accepted by others. Conflicts don't bother me as much because I know myself. I'm happy with who I am. I don't need you to give me a sense of self-worth. I already have it. I'm also able to recognize where I end. I have strengths. I also have weaknesses. My introversion means that there are extroverted things that I have colleagues that do really well. And when I accept myself, I'm able to appreciate them for their part in our collaboration. I'm able to invite them in. Please compliment me where I end. It's so cool to be a team. An exercise here for your self-acceptance is to pause. Just pause for a second and think about everything that you have overcome. Everything that you have already gone through in your life. Honor yourself. Honor yourself for the strengths that you have developed, your unique person. And look forward and recognize, what do you yet have to grow and learn? What do you yet have to discover? And open up your mind to all of the people that you have to work with in the future and already who can teach you on these areas. So much opportunity where we don't have to defend ourselves. We get to open up and grow. Compassion is a delicate word. It doesn't mean that I'm taking the role of a victim. No, that's not what it is. To be compassionate is to seek understanding for self. We, as leaders and as team members, always have a relationship going on with ourselves. And imagine that you walked home to your friend's house and you wanted to spend time with them, and they opened that door and looked at you with anger and bitterness and resentment and disrespect. Would you want to stay in their company? Would you want to get to know them? I'm just going to tell you, I wouldn't. And it's just the same when we spend time with ourselves. Instead of, opening up to ourselves with those eyes, we get to open ourselves up with compassion, with love, with curiosity, and seek to understand. And this is being in a compassionate state, that we are seeking to understand ourselves. And we get to manifest it by how we speak to ourselves. What words am I using? Am I being very judgmental towards myself? Because I'm telling you, if my language is out of disrespect for me, I'm also going to be very protective of myself in a conflict. I'm not going to be able to open up and be compassionate with the other person. I'm not going to be able to lead from a place of abundance. It all starts with how I treat myself. And this is the future. We're doing research on the compassionate organization of the mindful organization, and what role it plays in creating that psychological safety also between us. So my tip here is to be mindful of how you speak to yourself. You're going to be in your own company for the rest of your life, so pay attention to how you are speaking to yourself. Is it words of judgment or is it words of encouragement? Begin there, and I trust that you will also in a conflict be the one who brings encouragement, who brings the opportunities. And I'm telling you also, as a manager and as someone employing, you are looking for people who will be able to spot the opportunities in different situations. So if this becomes a part of your person, that you're already compassionate with you, so you're able to be compassionate with another person and listen and open up to them, that is going to open up doors for you in your career. Yes. Empathy is often confused with sympathy. Sympathy might be that we're really feeling with the other person. Sometimes it means that we're losing track of our own perspective. We're losing groundedness in, well, what was my initial feeling here? Empathy is a cognitive process. It's making the conscious decision that, okay, I'm in conflict with this person. I might feel like he's an idiot or she's an idiot, and I choose to open up to his perspective, to her unique story. What did she go through? What is her needs in this situation? I'm just going to be bigger than this. I'm going to step into her shoes and be curious and mindful as to what is she looking for. I'm taking on the responsibility as a teammate and asking myself, this is so annoying. Yes. How can I support her? Authenticity is about being ourselves. It is about pulling water from the same well all of the time, because we're not pretending. We're not walking into work trying to be someone else, keeping a mask on. No one's going to trust us when we're trying to be someone else. The good news is that you get to be you. and discover you. When we are, there's a consistency in behavior. It means that we're the same person if you meet us in the store as well as in the boardroom. This inspires trust. People will handle conflicts with you much easierly if they know you, they trust you, because you're being real, you're being authentic, the original that you are. It's so encouraging that we get to be ourselves. And an exercise here is to be vulnerable, to show with your coworkers that I don't always have it all together. We can even be the first person to ask a question in the next meeting. Tell me what that's all about. Like, I don't know. It's okay. No one's going to bite your head off because you're not perfect. People will trust you for being real. They will inspire, conflicts will be easily resolved around you because you're being real and authentic. In this compassionate state, we get to forgive ourselves for what we didn't know before we learned it. And we get to let go of what was to create space for something better. And this is my last slide because I know that we are at the end of our presentation. Conflicts really is of value to us when we understand the people. When we understand it, we can harness the value from it. We reflect on our, we value decisions and make safer decisions when we take in different perspectives, when we allow that collidedness. And our diversity is such a source of creativity and joy in our work, and that juicy culture that we get to be part of for being us. And I want to thank you all for listening. I so enjoyed this moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Hmm.
It was very nice listening to you. Yes, ma'am, there are one or two questions from our end. Is compromising or avoiding the situation helpful to us all the time, ma'am, during the conflict?
Compromising, I would say this is a work. If it's a work situation, we can define what are my needs in this situation. Like how much does it affect me, and how much does it affect the team and the team reaching our goals? If this is really in the way of us, getting to where we really need to go, then I'd say, approach it from a place of, this is, I want to collaborate. I want to work this out together. And if it's for your for your identity, just ask yourself, do I need to work my issue out here? Or can I do it, in conversation with a friend? Can I let things go to keep just the peace at hand and figure myself out and what I am experiencing in a professional conversation, in a counseling, or with a friend? As it is the work that we're really talking about, if it is a close relationship, then I'd say, like, just value yourself. If it's important to you, then it's important to the relationship as well.
Yes, I think communication is more important, right? Whether it is workplace or it's personal relation.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to communicate to the person without thinking more in our mind.
Yes, right.
Yes. And ma'am, which are the conflict avoidance strategies according to you, which are beneficial to us during any conflict?
Hmm. The first thing is to listen, to open up to the fact that you have your own unique perspective, and in a conflict, no one can say what is true. No one can say that this is what happened. What you can do is you can speak from your perspective. My experience is this. And be very concrete. And this is in any feedback situation. Any feedback situation. Be very concrete as to what the person said or did and how it affected you. And be very quick to move into what you want to see. What is the solution that you're longing for? And acknowledge the other person when they're doing the things that you feel very validated by, that you feel very encouraged by. Like, oh, I really liked it when you did that. That really made me feel appreciated. Thank you. You know? Yeah.
Yes, so we should acknowledge the person, right?
Very sure.
Yes, yes. But sometimes I think thinking positive or negatively in our mind, ego also comes between the individual.
Yes. Yes. Many times we're struggling with also with something in the relationship towards ourselves, or it's our negative thoughts about ourselves that that create certain needs of confirmation or being treated a certain way. So really my message here is to know yourself and understand that you are worthy, you are enough. And when you have that sense of self-confidence, you recognize that how people behave is springing from them. You don't have to understand yourself based on how other people are treating you. Don't voluntarily step into another man's prison, right? What's flowing from them says something about their journey. And you can be compassionate with them and be, caring, and also set boundaries. Establish healthy boundaries is to, like, this is dignity to me, this is how far I'm about to go, and no further. So, there's the part of holding people accountable as well as yourself.
Yes. So believe in yourself and be confident.
Yeah. Confidence is understanding that I am enough and so are you. We're not in rivalry. We're in exploration. Life is not about perfection. It's a journey of discovery and growth. And we get to share that with one another. And it's so cool that I get to share that with you. And
Yes, acknowledgement is more important, madam, rather than having jealousy or all that thing.
yes. Yes. And we can speak of acknowledging versus agreeing. We're not always going to be agreeing with the person that we are in conflict with. We can acknowledge them for who they are. And people start to heal when they're heard and they're seen. And when we're able to listen and acknowledge another person, that's going to help their brain soothe into also being able to collaborate and listen and open up in your teamwork.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for giving
My
us your
pleasure.
valuable time. Yes, I would like to thank you, the head of our department, Mr. Hemal Patel, sir, the HR of our institute, Professor Jatin Vaidya, sir, the academic director, Dr. Mahesh Bhatt, sir, and president of our university, Dr. Devanshu Patel, sir, for motivating and supporting us continuously. Last but not the least, I would like to thank you all the participants who assembled here today for this webinar. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this. Thank you.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye.